two survivors, two different 911 calls within minutes of each other, but who was telling the truth? This case is recent and ongoing, and this is all that we know about it so far. You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I'm Brooke Makenna, and today's case is the case of the Humiston family. If you have not heard of this one yet, or even if you have, there are some things that I want to dive into and just some discrepancies between the two stories that I think is very telling in the psychology of especially one of the children who is believed to have been the killer here. It's a disturbing story, and it makes you wonder if that second 911 call hadn't come in, if that second survivor had not been able to escape, if we would know the truth in this story. I wanted to remind you guys that I do have a Genuine Gem newsletter, which I will link down below for you if you would like to sign up. I don't spam you. It doesn't cost anything. It's just basically to make sure that you are being notified when I upload videos, as YouTube doesn't always do it. It doesn't always send it out to your algorithm. And so I would really love to be able to just personally send you my videos. So if you want to sign up for that newsletter for the community, I will have that linked below. It would mean the world to me if you joined that. And if not, I do upload every Sunday at 9 a.m. CST. But first, a quick mention from our sponsor, Kitsch, a brand who allows me to continue to create these videos. I have loved Kitsch for such a long time. In fact, I got their heatless, their jumbo heatless hair curlers so long ago and have been using them for years. And now they have so many amazing products. You guys are always asking how I do my hair, what products I use. So I'm so excited I get to share with you a brand that I have been using for years. Kitsch is a female-owned global accessory brand, which is at attainable price points for all sorts of hairstyles and textures. One thing that I stand by is that beneficial hair products do not have to be at a high price point, and this is something that I've learned as a cosmetologist. So in fact, Kitsch's shampoo and conditioner bars, they're under $11 with my discount code, and they do amazing things while also helping the environment. They have become my go-to for an at-home salon experience. The rice water protein bars, they lather up right in your hand, better than some liquid products that I have tried to use as shampoo that just don't lather and don't give me that clean feeling. Because it's rice water, it actually helps to balance the scalp and promote hair growth and strengthen the hair as well. All with no parabens, no sulfates, and better for the environment with zero packaging. I mean, look at the shine I've been getting in my hair since using these bars. I mean, I was skeptical at first when I originally started using the bars because I really like that deep lather, that clean feeling, but the bars actually did that and then some. So Kitsch is giving you guys an amazing deal. Each bar is under $11 using my code Brooke, or under $21 if you want to get both the shampoo and the conditioner set. So use my link in the description and or use my code Brooke to get 25% off your order. That will auto apply at checkout. And thank you so much to Kitsch for sponsoring this video. So on October 21st of 2024, in the early morning hours around 5 a.m. that Monday, a 911 call would come in to the Fall City, Washington dispatch. Now this was about 4:55, and there was a male on the other line who appeared to be kind of out of breath, and he told the dispatcher that his 13-year-old brother had just shot his entire family and then taken his own. Now, the male caller said that he had survived because he was hiding in the bathroom while this occurred, and he escaped injury.
The RP's now saying that the brother had shot at all the other family members?
He claimed that he was actually the 15-year-old in the family and that his younger brother had been caught looking at explicit images the night prior and was about to be in a lot of trouble, which he was kind of alluding to that being the possible motive. So as investigators rushed to this home on Lake Alice, they believed that this could be a possible murder. They would quickly realize that this was a horrific homicide investigation with multiple deaths, and most likely it wasn't a danger to the public. It was believed that this had just occurred within the family. There were 5 bodies found in total, 2 adult bodies, 3 child's bodies, all with gunshot wounds to the head. The 13-year-old, who was identified by the 15-year-old surviving brother as the killer, was found with a gunshot wound to his head as well, and the gun was actually in his left hand, resting on his chest. But there was a missing child from the scene that investigators did not realize at that time. You see, the Humiston family lived in Washington in Falls City. It was a picture-perfect place about 30 minutes outside of Seattle. It was a mansion right on the water. It was beautiful, very low crime rate, small population. So the Humiston family involved 43-year-old Mark, his wife 42-year-old Sarah, and their 5 children. So this was 7-year-old Catherine, 9-year-old Joshua, an unnamed 11-year-old girl, a 13-year-old named Benjamin, and an unnamed 15-year-old. Mark was an engineer at Hargis Engineers. He was said to be a great leader and mentor and father. And Sarah was a registered nurse, but she had actually been homeschooling and a stay-at-home mother since 2022. The whole family was very active in the community. They were well known, and they were at every sports game that these children had. They were just a supportive, loving, all-around, normal-seeming family. But the 3 of the children that would be found with parents deceased in the home would be Catherine, Joshua, and Benjamin. So the 7, 9, and 13-year-olds. Now, the 15-year-old son was the 911 caller. Investigator found him at the crime scene, hiding in that bathroom. He did not have any injuries. But where was their 11-year-old daughter? Well, what the 15-year-old brother did not know was that his 11-year-old sister had survived this attack as well, and not long after that 911 call had come from the 15-year-old, they would receive another, and this was at 5:02 a.m. This gave a completely different story. This would be from a neighbor of the Humistons who would tell the dispatcher that the neighbor's daughter had just run up to their door, started banging on the door until they finally opened it, telling them that their family members had been shot. Thankfully, this neighbor had medical experience because this girl had also been shot as well. She had been shot twice and was bleeding from the neck and the hand, and she was saying that she was afraid that her brother might try to find her. But she had 3 brothers, a 9-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 15-year-old. Which one was she referring to? When police and paramedics arrived, they immediately took her to the Harborview Medical Center for treatment, and the 15-year-old was taken down to the police station, to the Sammamish police station, because police did not yet know what exactly happened, who was the suspects, who was the survivors in this case, what had actually occurred. So Deputy Mellis called the scene traumatic. They worked fast to obtain a search warrant, so they were actually able to gather evidence inside of this home, and first responders ended up telling the news that the suspected shooter was a family member who then had taken his own life.
I want to start out by saying kind of a repeat from this morning for some of you. The information that I have right now is it's good, it's general, it's preliminary, because this investigation is still in its early stages, even though we're hours into this. The information I give out or have given out could change at any time. We want to update it as possible, but things can change day to day, hour to hour, potentially. So with that, let me tell you what happened this morning. The King County Sheriff's Office received a few phone calls this morning, 911 calls, about some kind of disturbance with fire at a residential house behind us, the 7700 block of Lake Alice Road. On the way out here, so deputies from all over the north part of King County came out here from Sammamish, Snoqualmie Pass, as far as Redmond Ridge, all rushed out here at this call. En route, we learned that there was a neighbor who had medical experience who was providing aid to an injured individual, presumably who had been shot but was surviving. When deputies got here, they discovered sort of a chaotic scene. But what they did when they entered the property is they immediately took one young male, teenage male, into custody. They discovered that there was in fact one injured teenager. That teenager was given medical attention and was quickly transported to Harborview Medical Center. When deputies entered the residence and property itself, they discovered 5 deceased individuals inside the home. These included 2 adults and 3 juveniles. I don't have the specific ages of the juveniles, but I think it's fair to say that they were young teenagers. Once those bodies were discovered, clearly we understand that this is a hugely significant crime scene, and we started our incident command structure process, where we started determining First of all, we get the scene safe. Second of all, we determine what resources we need, who we're going to call out, how we're going to replace individuals that have other duties throughout the department. And that really started around 6:30 a.m. and we've been doing that ever since. One of the first steps was to call out our King County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit. They're going to be the lead investigators in this case. They'll live with the case from today until it's concluded sometime in the distant future. It was determined that this is a very significant scene with multiple victims, a difficult scene, and we needed the expertise of the State Patrol's crime lab to come and really take ownership of the forensic side of this. I want to be clear that what had happened here this morning had essentially concluded before the 911 call was made or before deputies arrived. In other words, there was no significant confrontation with the young man that was taken into custody. What had happened had happened. It was done. There was no... his detention happened without any issues or any injuries. That young man is going to be booked today into the King County Youth Center. For lack of a better term, that's the juvenile jail for King County, and that's where that young man will be. Notifications have been made to family members. I think by now most neighbors have figured out that this is a significant event. We are going to be here as an investigative team for days. What our deputies discovered in the house was 2 adult individuals and 3 obvious juveniles. I'm not going to say what their roles in life. I can't even say for sure whether this is a parent and children. I just don't know the relationships. They could be any type of relationship. So I'm going to withhold confirming any relationships, but it does appear to be that this is a family incident, clearly a domestic violence incident that involves not only a young man who's now in significant trouble, and it involves firearms, young men and firearms.
So this is all the public knew at this point, and a soccer coach that was actually friends of the family would identify the family members at the medical examiner's office, saying that the dad worked so hard. The mom was the most dedicated, loyal mom you could ever ask for. He thought the family was so perfect. From the outside, they looked perfect. All of the neighbors around them were in complete shock. They said that this family would spend the holidays or the weekends together, and even with the neighbors, they had all gotten to know this family. This family were very strong Christians. They loved God. They loved doing home projects. They had taken walks around that lake that they lived on every single day.
The loss of this beloved family, taken so cruelly and senselessly, has left us heartbroken, devastated, and struggling to understand how such pain could exist in this world. There are no words that can fully capture the weight of this loss.
We just delighted in our hearts that we knew such sweet kids. They were right there as if they had capes on. Do you want us to take you back to shore?
In this darkness, we choose to let the light of their lives guide us, remembering their laughter, their kindness, and the way they touched each of our hearts.
But the alleged murder weapon was found to be in the hands of the 13-year-old son, Benjamin, which was believed to be used on everyone. This was found to be registered to their father, Mark. And then also a small lockbox was found near the inside of the residence that had been opened. Now, the medical examiner found that the father, Mark, had 4 gunshot wounds to the shoulder, to the armpit, to the lower back, and the back of the head, as though he was trying to run away. The mother, Sarah, actually had 2 gunshot wounds to the head, one that was believed to be before she had run into the bathroom where she was found, and then the door frame to that bathroom was actually splintered as though she had locked it, and it was forced open before she was shot dead inside. The shell casing was actually found inside the bathroom, but just one. Now, each of the 3 deceased children had gunshot wounds to the head as well, and the 13-year-old Benjamin had 2 wounds, and the 7 and the 9-year-old had 1. So that's when the medical examiner got to work on determining the cause of death for the 13-year-old boy, as it had been alleged that he had taken his own life after murdering his entire family and with the weapon he was holding. But the medical examiner would find that his wounds showed that the weapon would have had to have been 2 feet away from the body when fired. This was found because there was no scorching or stippling around the injuries, which would usually occur at close range. He also had 2 wounds, so something was not adding up here. That afternoon, a press conference was actually held by the KCSO Public Information Officer, Mike Mellis, who revealed information that they were piecing together at the scene as it was occurring.
In fact, I did want to clarify a couple things about the initial call out. I know there's been some word about the way the call came out, and it was described as a potential suicide. As we speak now, several hours later, we've determined that that was a miscommunication, a misunderstanding between the 911 caller and our call taker. The word hiding might have been misconstrued as, and so our deputies did come in thinking we had some sort of a situation, but really once they got on scene, met with the first witnesses, met with the young men that they ultimately took in custody, and of course found the deceased bodies, it became evident that there was no involved. Residence that this happened is a single-family residence. It is on the lakeside down the street. It is just past or right near the tent where they're working right now. I have no reason to think that there's going to be any additional arrests. I do not believe that there's any continued concern of the neighborhood safety or general safety to the public. This incident was a very contained tragedy within a family or within an extended family or the residents here. And as bad as it is, at least it stayed contained within this property. I did do a general search of this address and really found nothing of interest. There was no repeated calls out here. The police haven't come out to this address really for any significant reason for years. So it's nothing that the local police department knew as a, quote, problem house at all. Anybody interested in this case would want to know what led up to it, most importantly, and were there things that were red flags or signs, and social media will certainly be part of that. That will require additional search warrants for electronic devices, search warrants for cell phones, for social media apps. In 2024, there's a lot of search warrants that need to be issued, served on various companies nowadays. So I would expect that to happen here. I don't have a specific answer as to what crime he's going to be booked on. Based on my experience in this business, he's going to be booked on some type of a murder first degree, murder second degree charge initially. Keep in mind though, there's a large difference between what you're booked under, what you're charged under, and what you're ultimately convicted or acquitted under. So these things can change. So the initial booking, although it's going to have the word murder in it, could change.
So the 11-year-old who was in the hospital, she was questioned by investigators, and she started crying, stating that she had woken up that very early morning to the sound of screaming and gunshots. She was on the upper story in the second bunk in her bedroom, and her younger sister Catherine was on the bottom bunk. She opened her eyes. She couldn't really see what was happening. She looked out in the hallway, and that's when she saw one of her brothers and her dad lying in the hallway motionless. She said before she could do anything, her little sister Catherine got up from that bottom bunk, walked out into the hallway, and that's where she was shot as well. The 11-year-old then said that she watched her brother leaning over the bodies of their family members in the hallway, touching their necks to see if they were still alive. As she laid still, she would open her eyes and see her brother standing over her, pointing a gun at her. She said that he shot her, and she began to hold her breath, playing dead. She was injured on her neck and her hand. She was still conscious, though, as he stood over her. She then heard him walk out of the room, and she was hearing someone else shouting help, and then she heard her brother start talking on the phone to someone, and that is when she attempted her escape. She had this fire window on the second story that she was able to get out, but she had to first see the bodies of her family members in the hallway as she was going there. So she jumped out of the second-story window and immediately ran to the neighbor's home for help. But something that investigators needed to confirm with this 11-year-old was the fact that during the 911 call with that neighbor that had been made for her, the dispatcher had asked her if she was sure that the 15-year-old brother was the killer. And that is when she stated that it was.
The sister who went to the neighbor's house is now saying that our caller is the one who was the shooter and was alive when she left the house.
Not the 13-year-old holding the weapon like the 15-year-old had said was the killer and then had taken his own. The 11-year-old was stating she was the only survivor here because he wasn't a survivor at all but the perpetrator. Her own eldest brother killed her entire family, and he was the person she locked eyes with while he tried to kill her. When she was asked if the 15-year-old was having any issues at home, the 11-year-old survivor explained that he had been failing tests at school, he had gotten into a lot of trouble, and she also said that her father sometimes left that Glock in the lockbox by the front door for him going to work the next day. They all knew where it was, however, the 15-year-old was the only one who knew the combination. Now, the 11-year-old was released after 3 days in the hospital in good condition, but her 15-year-old brother had no idea that she had survived in order to refute his story. While in Kings County Youth Jail, he was given an attorney who told detectives that he would not speak to them. They had allegedly not gotten a statement from him since that 911 call. So Sheriff Detectives Aaron Thompson wrote in a probable cause statement from the King County Sheriff's Office that the 15-year-old staged the scene to blame one of the victims. That evidence appeared to show that the suspect systematically murdered his mother, his father, his two brothers, his sister, and attempted to murder his other sister. Then he staged the crime scene prior to the arrival of the first responders. They believed that this was all premeditated, and so the next day on October 22nd, the 15-year-old was held at the Juvenile Detention Center, and he was supposed to have his first court appearance. However, he waived his right to attend and was represented by his defense attorneys. The teen was then ordered by the judge to be held in secure detention and have no contact with the surviving member of the family. On October 24th of 2024, 3 days after the murders, the 15-year-old, still unnamed, due to the King County judge ruling that he was a juvenile and hadn't been charged as an adult yet, so he could not be named in the public, he was then charged with 5 counts of first-degree aggravated murder and 1 count of first-degree attempted murder. The next day, he attended his court hearing, and his attorneys had all of these statements that he was such a good kid. During a court hearing, prosecutors asked for this case to be heard in adult court, which would be different than trying him as an adult. The judge was basically saying that he will hear from the prosecution and from the defense over the next few months to make his decision, and so due to this, the 15-year-old did not even enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and he was residing at the Clark Child and Family Justice Center. 3 days after this, 7 days since the murder, on October 28th, the 15-year-old's defense attorneys, who were Amy Parker and Molly Campera, filed a court document stating that there were 2 versions of what happened: her client's and the living sole victim, the 11-year-old sister's version, and that the suspect's version appeared to be forensically viable as well. They then claimed that the suspect's 911 call was consistent with the forensic received so far, and that there was no evidence that the suspect even had blood on him after the killings. They also believe there was no clear motive here. They say the law presumes that he is innocent of these charges, and it was just a 15-year-old boy who enjoyed mountain biking, fishing, has no criminal history. They then filed a motion for the teen's privacy to be granted, barring the media from saying his name or from filming him from the neck up. But the defense was also fighting for entry of the crime scene at this point, and the maternal grandmother of the Humiston children had asked the judge to deny entry of the home in Washington State, because the Washington State parole had processed the scene for 20 hours. They took over 1,200 photos, and the grandmother wanted to have the property clean cleaned and their personal items taken out because she now had custody of that 11-year-old survivor. But on October 29th, the defense team was granted a 10-hour window to go in and take pictures of the crime scene and conduct a 3D scan inside. Now, they were not allowed to search items like cabinets, containers, drawers, digital evidence, but they were allowed to have access to things in plain view. And afterwards, they were claiming that it was clear that no one involved in this shooting would have escaped without a substantial amount of blood on this person. Yet there was no mention that the 15-year-old had any blood on him in the 106 pages of evidence. But after the defense team's search, the prosecution then alleged that there was evidence that the defense team exceeded beyond what was permitted, and they were moving things around and removing items from the scene. Prosecution claimed that there was a bottle of Clorox wipes that went missing from the home after they entered the home, and that the backpacks belonging to the children had also been moved. After this, the defense attorneys, who were Amy Parker and Molly Campera, filed a notice with the court saying they were withdrawing from the case entirely and being this 15-year-old's defense lawyer. His new attorney, Christian Gestott, then filed a 31-page brief that denied the state's accusations against the previous defense team and accused the state of misconduct. She then asked the state to publicly apologize to the suspect and the former defense team. She said that they made false and defamatory allegations that irreparably damaged the suspect's right to a fair trial. Now, that's when the prosecution withdrew their accusations, saying that certain photos were dismissed when they were looking at previous evidence. But the hearing to decide if this 15-year-old will be tried as an adult is set for June of this year, 2025. If he stays in juvenile court and is found guilty, he would be held into a facility for juveniles until the age of 25 and then released with no further repercussions. But if it is moved to adult court and he is convicted, that sentence would likely be 25 years to life, with the presumption that he would be released at 25 years. So he would be held at the juvenile facility until 25 years and then placed into the Department of Corrections with the adults. I think it's very important that we stay up to date on this case and all of the little inconsistencies that this 15-year-old has already made in regards to the statements and then the 11-year-old statements that had come out after that. I think it's so important that these discrepancies are known from the very beginning. And I think it tells us a lot about the premeditation or the manipulation that was going on prior to this with this 15-year-old and possibly his state of mind. I know that they're going to do psych eval tests. I don't believe that they have come out yet. I would love to update you in the future when the trial does come. But do you think that he should be tried as an adult? Now, the maternal grandmother of these children have become the sole guardian for the 11-year-old survivor as well as the trustee of the Lakeside home. The 11-year-old survivor is said to be doing well physically, however, traumatized mentally, and has lost her entire family, allegedly due to her oldest brother, who killed them for a reason that is still unknown. Was almost an entire family murdered because of bad grades? Monstrous crimes like this push us to face the reality of evil that can be within children. Do you think that there is any way that the 13-year-old had something to do with it or was the real killer? Either way, this would make it still a killer child. But I think the fact that this 15-year-old could blame his brother, who he had just killed, in order to try to get away with this, it speaks volumes on his character. I think that that is something that should really be taken into consideration, especially if the psych eval comes back and he doesn't necessarily have any sort of mental illnesses. I think that sort of deception and ability to lie about something like that at 15 years old says so much. Does a premeditated murder, staging of a crime scene, framing of his younger brother equal an adult trial? Or does the amount of years that he has been on this earth mean that he only deserves a juvenile court instead? Will we ever know what the real motive for this was? Do you believe it was the 15-year-old? I mean, hearing these two 911 calls back to back, even the dispatcher was very suspicious of the 15-year-old and how he had portrayed the information rather than how the 11-year-old survivor did. I am one to always believe survivors, and in this case, it is a little skewed because that 15-year-old originally appeared to be a survivor. So you have these two survivors who are saying that their killer was their brother, but that brother was two different people. I know people have talked a lot about the fact that they were homeschooled and that can be isolating for a family, and that could possibly have something to do with the fact that he killed his entire family. But what I think a lot of people fail to realize is that if a child is having trouble in homeschooling, behavioral wise, that often is because they were having trouble at school behavioral wise. And a lot of the times homeschooling is because they needed that one-on-one attention from their parent or a smaller group setting for their learning, or just due to, developmental disabilities or learning disabilities. So it can be something that the child actually needs, and that it would actually be worse if they were going to public school, especially with those behavior issues, because public school does not, especially public school, does not have a lot of training in place to deal with those kind of behaviors. And so I would just love to hear if there was any sort of behaviors before with the school that they were dealing with that were kind of overwhelming to them. I would love to know the progression. It was in 2022 that it appears that she started homeschooling, which was right around, of course, COVID, where everybody was homeschooling, when everybody just kind of thought it was a better idea to do so. So that could have been the reason why as well. But I don't think we can blame all of this on homeschooling. But I don't think it is fair to start blaming the parents without any inkling as to why this occurred. With the fact that the 15-year-old son actually had the combination to the lockbox from his father, that shows that this family trusted him as the eldest son to possibly protect or at least know that combination, to have such a deadly weapon. They trusted him. They had confidence in their eldest son that he was a good person, that he could help the family in needs of crisis. Otherwise, why would you tell any of the children that? They, it appears to me, believed he was old enough, he was mature enough to have this information to help his father protect the family. And he used that against them. I've seen quite a few people who are trying to flip it and blame it on the parents. And that can, of course, that is a huge issue. And that can lead to this sort of thing happening. But with no inkling that that was the case, I just don't think that's fair. Moral of the story is we do not know what was going on behind the scenes. We do not know about the psyche of this 15-year-old, but we do know his ability to lie and manipulate and take the lives of those he is supposed to love the most, including a 7- and 9-year-old. He did not just kill his parents, who were the ones who, if it was really because he had gotten bad grades, okay, he was mad at his parents, probably his mother, for those bad grades. What did his siblings have to do with that? And why did he have to murder them as well? And then why did he have to blame his brother for being the killer instead? Something is wrong. And we could be looking at a true psychopath here. But we'll have to wait until more comes out for the trial. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will go ahead and cover that when it does occur. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And I am just glad that this 11-year-old made it out alive, because she deserves that, but also because we could know the truth so quickly. And I really don't know how quickly that would have been a conclusion that was found, was that actually the 15-year-old was involved and not the 13-year-old, if she hadn't have been so brave to speak out and say, no, it was my 15-year-old brother that looked me in the eyes before he shot me. Letting everybody know the signs of these sorts of individuals, especially with psychopathy, to warn them that this is something that can occur even in children. In fact, one case that comes to mind is one I just recently did. Well, it's been a few months now, where this son had killed his father, and they said, oh, it's self-defense. He claimed it was self-defense. And then a year later, he killed his mom. It, in fact, was not self-defense, and this was a psychopathic child. So yeah, I will link that down below as well if you have not heard that story. That one's crazy as well. But for me, this case, I just have so many questions, and I wanted to ask you these questions and see if we could maybe kind of put together our own theories before more information comes out in this case. It'll be a few more months until we have more information for a trial. But yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm losing my voice. I've been sick for literally a week now, and I had to film this video today to get it up for you guys. I just appreciate you so much. So don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay, bye.